What I really love about old vehicles is just that moment when you sit behind the wheel, you get this smell of musty leather and petrol, and you just feel like you're sat in a piece of history, in something that's so different to all the modern vehicles out there today, and it just never fails to put a smile on my face every time. I'm Lucy.
And I'm Ben, and for the past 6 years we've been travelling around Europe in our banged out old LDV convoy.
It's always been our dream to be able to travel full time, and so in 2018 we bought a second van to convert and hire out. We wanted something that was quirky and unique, and so when we found this van in a barn on the moorlands of North Cornwall, we just knew we had to buy it. Our van is a 1979 Bedford CF. This is a classic British van, and at one point they were the most popular van on British roads. They were used as everything from ice cream vans to camper vans to horse boxes. Ours has got a 2.3 litre petrol slant 4 engine. But when we bought it, it was just a chassis cab and it didn't have a box on the back at all. Over the course of about 2 years, we constructed the entire box you can see here. We used aluminium sheets stuck onto aluminium box section to create the frame, buffalo boards for the flooring, and we used pot rivets to attach the entire structure together. So the cab is the only original part of this van, seeing as we built everything else, and for that reason we decided to keep it as original as possible. So we've still got the original 1979 seats in here, got this lovely big steering wheel because of course vans back then didn't have power steering, and I love that the engine is also in the cab with us, with a little engine cover over it to hopefully muffle some of the noise. We did play with the idea of building a dashboard as well, but we decided to just keep everything as it was, as a homage to the original van. We decided quite early on in this project that this was going to be a stationary van. That's because it's just too big and too old to have people driving it around all over the country. So we decided that we were going to keep this van stationary on a glamping site to hire out. The great thing about this is that it gave us a much greater freedom with our design choices in here. So we built the entire interior from scratch, starting with the walls, which are aluminium on the outside, insulated with 25mm Celotex, and then covered with plywood. Underneath me, the bottom of the floor is made of buffalo board, which is insulated with even thicker 50mm Celotex, followed by a layer of plywood, then followed by these gorgeous real oak floorboards that we decided to lay down, which really adds some lovely character to this van. Above me we have the roof, which is constructed the same as the walls, but we decided to add in these amazing faux wood beams. We got these second-hand, already carved and stained, and they really do look like the real thing, but with a fraction of the weight. Now behind me you can see our gorgeous kitchen, and I really think this is one of the centerpieces of this van. This is a galley style kitchen. We made the frames out of pine and we've topped them with these absolutely gorgeous reclaimed elm worktops, which we got made at a local timber yard near to us. They really add a lovely bit of character to this kitchen, and they contrast so nicely against these green rustic marble tiles that we've used as a backsplash. But we wanted to kind of give this van a bit of a modern farmhouse twist, so we've gone for these lovely tempered black glass appliances. We've got the hob here, and we've got the Thetford oven underneath, which runs on gas. Just next to that we've got our Indelby Cruise mini fridge. This is a perfect size for this van conversion. You can get a whole week's worth of shopping in it very easily. And just down here we've got this gorgeous wicker basket with some vintage 1970s pots and pans, which just had to do, in keeping with the general vintage theme of this van. Over on the other side of the kitchen, more of this gorgeous elm running through, and into it we've set a Moroccan hand-painted enamel sink. When we saw this sink, it was that instant moment of we have to have this, and it works so well with the van. and this lovely ornate brass tap we've got behind it as well. We wanted to keep the theme of the green and the brass running subtly throughout the van, as well as all of the natural wood. And speaking of the green, you might have noticed this lovely stenciling on the fronts of the cupboards. This was inspired by a stay we had at the start of the year in an old-fashioned bow-top gypsy caravan, and I love the idea of doing the kind of inlay stencils to make something a little bit more unique and characterful. And we finished off the cupboard doors with these lovely green Moroccan-style knobs as well, again running with the brass. Rather than store everything traditionally in cupboards and drawers, we decided to mix it up a bit and include a vintage picnic camper to store all of the plates, bowls and cups. The idea being that anyone that stays in the van could easily just take the picnic camper out with them for the day and enjoy the countryside. Just above the kitchen here we've got this rustic shelf. This is made out of a piece of driftwood from our local beach, which we stained and varnished to give it a bit more of an aged look. And again, we've also got an aged brass light fitting up here just to provide a bit of lighting in the kitchen. Over here on this side we've got our Quantra LPG boiler. Now, we had a little bit of trouble finding a boiler that was gas safe compliant for this van, and eventually we stumbled across this and it is perfect. We can run the kitchen tap and the shower off it with ease on a gas bottle that lives externally to the van. The final thing in the kitchen I wanted to show you before we move on is the wine rack. A little bit of an unusual feature in a van, I know, but we really want to do something completely different and just tear up the rulebook with this kitchen.
So, I'm sure the question everyone wants the answer to is just how much this thing cost us. And honestly, we stopped counting at the 16,000 mark, but it's probably gone a fair little bit over that as well. It's cost us loads more than we could ever have imagined. And honestly, we thought we were getting a bargain buying this thing for £450. Little did we know just how much the costs would climb and climb and climb. Obviously, we've been unfortunate with the pandemic, and prices for materials have gone through the roof. That's certainly not helped, but realistically it probably hasn't added on that much more than it would have been anyway without a pandemic.
So I'm inside our full-sized waterfall shower. We made these walls out of plywood and then applied a tanking solution to them to kind of turn this into a wet room and less of a traditional campervan bathroom, which I then painted over with some lime wash, also in black, to give a very subtle kind of artistic texture to it. Again, we've got these lovely green rustic marble tiles and the brass shower fittings, same as in the kitchen, just to keep that theme running all the way through. And we've also spray painted our lovely porthole and mushroom vent brass as well, just to keep the theme going. The shower tray underneath me we made from scratch rather than buy a plastic one. We didn't feel it was really in keeping with the natural materials we wanted to use in the van. So this is made of plywood again, but very slightly angled towards the back to allow for drainage, with a very small lip as well to prevent the water from flooding into the van. We've got this awesome brass shower drain with the fish in it, a little random detail that I came up with, but I think it works. And the tiles are made of slate, so all in all you just get this lovely experience that you wouldn't ever expect to have in a campervan, I think, when you're in this shower. So one of the things we wanted to achieve with this conversion was to really pay homage to the van's 1970s origins and kind of imagine what a campervan looked like when it was built in the 70s. So we drew a lot of inspiration from online, from googling old photos, and we came across this one particular image where this campervan had a seating area with the window that looks straight out through the cab and to the view, and we immediately wanted to copy that. So the entire seating area is designed to kind of gravitate towards whatever view the van is parked up looking at. We upholstered these cushions with this lovely green corduroy and this kind of trim on it, and to me they just remind me of, like, I don't know, pub seats from when I was younger. I know that's a bit of a weird thing to say, but it just reminds me of like when I was a little kid and being in kind of dusty, smoky pubs, but in a really good way. I think it captures that vintage kind of feeling, and the orange cushions just really set it off very well. But I know what you're looking at isn't really the seat cushions, it's this amazing table. Definitely one of the highlights of this van. This again was a piece of British elm that we got from a local reclamation yard, and we cut this down to size and sanded it back and oiled it ourselves to create this amazing table. It's super unconventional, it's a little bit weird to eat your dinner off, but it just becomes such a focal point in this van, and we have had so many compliments on it. So above one side of the seating area we've got this amazing little vintage radio that we found secondhand on Facebook, and I know it's not exactly of the same era of the van, it's more very much like 1920s radio, but I think it kind of adds this old world feel, and I love the little crackle as you turn the dial on. So behind me we decided to frame up our collection of UK National Park stickers with this lovely little topographic map background, something a bit unique to bring a bit of interest to the walls in here. And of course next to that we have to have a hanging plant. I love plants, I'm a little bit obsessed with them, Ben will tell you that. Also with this window we decided to take away the squareness of the van. I wanted to create these kind of weird waney edge frames for all the windows and the doors. So these are hand carved by Ben, painstakingly sanded down into all the weird kind of shapes that I drew, and then I just hit them with a blowtorch to give them this nice charred effect and a coat of wood stain, again to age them. We're going for the idea that this van was in fact built in the 70s and all of this wood would have had many decades over which to darken and become more characterful. And just above the seating area, of course, we've got the bed. So above the cab we have the sleeping area with a very cosy, full-size double bed, but we wanted this area to be just as light and airy as the rest of the van. So we fitted this really quirky, giant plastic dome into the roof, with the idea that it would not only let light in, but you can also kind of poke your head up and have a little look out at the view and your surroundings. We finished this off with a piece of metal, aka an old dinner plate that we cut the centre out of and lightly charred to give it a brassy tone. This just to create the effect of a porthole, finished off with these lovely mirror screws and a piece of rope just to fill in the gaps. At the back of the bed area we've got this lovely tapestry. This was again to really tie in that idea of the sort of gypsy wagon feel that we were going for in here. But of course you've probably noticed this absolutely amazing bed divider that we've created. This was made out of pieces of driftwood that we found from our local beach over the many years and stained to give it that aged wood kind of look. And I think this really offsets nicely against the ivy and the fairy lights I've put up here to create this really kind of woodland den sort of feeling. Now, hiding underneath this bench seat, we have our electrical system. This is a really simple setup because this van is designed to be used purely on campsites and on the grid. So we've got a 240 volt mains hookup which comes in here, feeds through to the fuse box, and we've also got an AC to DC 12 volt converter which allows us to run all of the 12 volt appliances like the lights and the pumps straight from the mains. So you probably noticed our little wood burner here. Unfortunately, the only thing that's real about this wood burner is the wood that's underneath it. This is actually a really cute little electric heater, but you still get the added ambience of the flames. The main reason we put this in is simply because it was too difficult, almost impossible to get a real wood burner signed off fit for a hire vehicle, and the insurance on it would have been crazy. But this does just the same job. It heats the whole van up, the heat stays in really nicely, and you've got this lovely red glow as well, which I really enjoy. Underneath me as well, because we built the kitchen on a raised platform, that gave us a little bit of extra storage space underneath. So we've just got this pull-out wicker drawer where we keep spare towels and useful items for the guests. Well, you might be wondering where all of the plumbing is hiding, and it's actually been very cleverly built into this kitchen unit here. So we've got a water inlet on the outside of the van, which allows us to fill up a 60-litre tank, which is then emptied via a 12-volt pump, which delivers cold water to the kitchen tap and the shower. Equally, the boiler also draws water from this tank and heats it up before sending it off to the various water outlets. And that's really all there is to it. It's a very simple system, but we do have very full and effective plumbing in the van. So, at the end of this 3.5-year project, what do you think we've learned?
Well, I've learned that we might be able to live together really, really well in a small space, but not necessarily work together very well in a small space. It is actually feels a lot smaller in here when you're both trying to do jobs.
It does.
But that's probably not the answer you're after. What have I learned? Well, real life skills. I can cut a bit of wood a bit straighter than I could on the last van build. You know, we've built some really amazing little quirky things in here like this. I guess it's really enabled us to be more creative because this big square box was a complete blank canvas. There were no sort of predetermined window holes or roof holes or doors like there were in the LDV. Every single part of this we had control over. So I think we've gained a lot of confidence in our own abilities and really pushing the boundaries of what we think we can achieve.
Definitely. And I think something I've learned as well is that, especially with such a massive project that you're undertaking, looking after your own kind of mental health is really important. There have definitely been multiple times along this build where we felt like crying, giving up, selling the whole project in whatever state it was in. We were at each other's throats. There's been so many moments, really difficult, challenging moments that we've had to overcome, and we have overcome them together, and we are so much stronger for it, having done this van together.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's really good to recognise when you need to take a break from a project, when you're just throwing yourself against that wall again and again and not getting anywhere with it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think actually taking the gap in between where we went to Eastern Europe and we did some filming and then we had the TV show as well, it really did help to break it up. It wouldn't have taken so long if we didn't have those things going, but I don't think we could have actually finished it if we just kept going all the way through. It just got a bit too much at times.
You need that clarity, you need to have that creative inspiration. You can't come out here every day and pick up a tool and just say, okay, I'm going to build something. You have to have that flash of inspiration, I think, to be able to create something as unique and wonderful as this.
Having said that though, as soon as we got onto the interior design, things did get a lot more enjoyable. We were kind of felt like we were in our own element a bit more then. You know, it was all alien to us building this huge metal box. We'd never worked with metal before, we'd never built or engineered anything like this before. You know, it's a bit different to Lego and Meccano, so, you know, quite a step up.
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, getting towards the end of this, it was much more relaxing in here, the work atmosphere. And now we can just sit back and look at what we've achieved.
Yeah, we've overcome that challenge and it is the most wonderful feeling you can imagine. And then just behind me, we've decided to frame up some of our UK National Park stickers on display with these. So, lovely spacious double-sized bed area. What am I going to say about it? Can I just start this segment again? I wasn't ready. Into this kitchen unit here. What am I going to say? Let's start again. Every time. It's weird 'cause Should I try that again?